It was good. What's good? It's Culture Appetite. It's the podcast that's bringing the culture, the knowledge for growth, self awareness, and accountability. I say accountability because it starts with us. We got to set the example for the generation that's coming after, and that's applying yourself with all type of knowledge, man, to pass down to the people that's less aware. I have one of my brothers here. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing? Definitely have a major information. I'm talking about culture shock, to bring awareness to the people that's not aware of what's going on. I came across the brother at the company that I worked at, and he informed me that he was Muslim. And I've been practicing Islam for about 10 years, going on 11 years. So Islam is very, very, part of me. And when the brother told me that he took his Shahada and became Muslims, instantly we bonded without a question. And that's just how it is with all Muslims across the world. And he was explaining to me what was going on and everything like that. And I was like, yo, the world need to hear the message that you have, because the world don't even know. Like, we're all Muslims. Everything that's living, breathing is Muslim. The only reason why people don't feel connected to Islam is because it seems so foreign. It ain't a native thing that they grew around. But when you really break down the word Muslim or Islam, it's everything that you practice. You know what I mean? Submission to the Creator. Jesus Christ. You know, he was a Muslim because he submitted to the will of God. All right, the trees submit to the will of God. It's crazy. Even your body submits to the will of God. All right. And how is that even possible? I'm gonna tell you how it's possible. Man, you have the call of nature. You have to breathe, you have to urinate, you have to defecate. And if you don't do those things, you die. So your body naturally submits to these things. And the people in the world got to know that, yo, that is the law of the universe. The creator made you a submissive creature. And it's all about submitting to the right thing. And I'm glad bro tapped in with me and was telling me about what he was, onto. Definitely. How long you been Muslim, huh?
I've been Muslim for about, let's see, I took my Shahada in August,
Right.
so it's been like two months,
Right.
3 months. But I've been curious about Islam for a bit longer than that. I've
Right.
been reading into it and kind of exploring it because I grew up very, not necessarily anti-religion, but I was opposed to religion. Like I was very I didn't practice anything. I didn't like what the Bible had to say. Really, I didn't
Right.
like. So it kind of pushed me away. And my family, like my mom, she was like Catholic, but she didn't like practice, but she was a Catholic, and um, I just didn't really. I don't like how they don't really acknowledge science. They tend to shut down science and stuff
Right.
like that. Because oh, this is God who did this. It was God.
Right. Right.
Whereas as I got more into Islam, I realized, oh, they actually like want you to like learn about science, and they encourage learning about knowledge and growing
Right.
your knowledge overall. So that was one of the things that really applied to me. And then as I started to read into it more, um, it just made sense.
Right.
I liked how it hasn't been properly done, and it's misused a lot in
Right.
other parts of the world. But I like how it puts women like second to God, and they should be
Very
they're
powerful.
holy. They're very that the man is almost supposed to be submissive in a relationship to the woman. And
Right.
it's more equal. It's not like we're in Christianity and stuff. Not to speak badly about it, but I feel like in a lot of those more um, like Catholic Christianity, those kind of things, it's more of they want to keep women down and be home breeders, stay at home, stay in the kitchen, that kind of thing.
Right.
I don't like that. Women have their own rights and have the ability to do whatever they want,
Right.
and that's how it's supposed to be because we're all equal, we're all human beings,
Right.
we're
Yeah.
all human beings.
Right. Not to cut you off, because that was one of the big things that struck me in Islam. It was definitely about the women. Because you have Christianity, of course, they bring the fall of man on the woman. It's a woman.
Yeah.
you
there's a lot
have
of blame.
there's
Like
a lot of
there's a lot of
blame,
blame
and
in,
they
in
put it
putting
into
women as like a bad,
right,
and it's
right.
like no,
Just same thing as the Indian religion is like, a woman is really under. It's like they don't give them that platform, or so to say, to for them to have that equalness, because
yeah.
even in the Quran it tells you that um, y'all equal, right? Spiritually, y'all equal.
Mhm.
Physically, it shows difference.
And I'm pretty sure it also says that like women are more able to do divorce in the Quran, which
Right.
in other books it doesn't say anything about
It
divorce.
doesn't.
It doesn't say that you're allowed once you get married to your husband, that's your husband for life, and that's
Right.
it.
Right.
And back. I mean, look at back in the 50s, the 60s here in America. You were talking about getting divorced. That was insane. That was crazy.
Right.
That was no, you can't do that. You can't do that.
Right.
Even if your husband was a drunk or would beat you, stuff like that. You were just expected to stay.
It was something that they shunned.
Yeah, a divorce was a big no-no.
Right.
Whereas here's a book from the 7th century talking about a woman has the right to leave if their husband is being neglectful and
Right,
being
right.
bad.
Yeah, Islam played major role when it comes to the rights over, their wives. It's like you have to support her. You got to take care of her, and then she has her own money.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Exactly.
It's not like so
it's
you're
on
like
the man to be the provider,
right,
and the woman can have her own source of income, her own money,
right,
have her own hobbies, have her own free
right.
will.
Definitely,
Pretty much,
definitely. I think a lot of people outside of Islam look at women like the hijabs that they're wearing like it's a prison, but they don't understand that that's a sacred covenant, and
That's a Western
covering.
thing. That's a Western.
Oh, it's always going to be a Western thing because it's what the media portrays. You know what I mean? Now, speaking on what the media is portraying today, especially about Islam or our Muslim brothers in the world. I remember talking to you and I seen how flustered you got about
Yeah, because it Western media has just always demonized Islam and demonized just overall other countries and other cultures just because they don't want to be accepting and like grow their knowledge on it. They would rather just say, no, this is bad. Don't like look into it. If you do, you're a terrorist.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, but it all just comes down to the fact that America was built on colonial like racism, and so the fact that they're not white, that's the thing. They don't they just because they're like if you look at crazy misuse of Sharia law like in under groups like the Taliban, Al Qaeda, and stuff like that. America would love to do the same thing here, just with bacon. With Sharia law with bacon, man, their pork's allowed.
Yo,
like literally,
very true.
Because that right there, that's one of the things that I always like. I've always felt this way, and I've known this because it's if you look into it, you can find it out that Islam has been grossly misinterpreted by a lot of these far right groups like Al Qaeda, ISIS, the Taliban. Groups like that, they misinterpret and they misuse what it says in the Quran to create a patriarchal society that is more um, like a regression back to before Islam, because like we've talked about before Islam was established in the Arab world, the Arabs were women were sold and traded like slaves. Women, if you had if your first baby was a woman, it was a daughter, you had to kill it and bury it. And if you kept having women, that would mean to them that was like you were cursed.
Yeah, had a omen.
Yeah. And so one of the things when the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he went up and he wrote the Quran, he was started having his visions from Allah and God. He specifically said one of the things is no more should you bury your firstborn daughter
ever.
Sacrifice, and women should not be. He's pretty much proposed this radical view that women are equal and they shouldn't be. So when Islam was first coming about, it was very much attacked by these tribal Arab societies who were like, no, this is a threat to, and that's what groups like the Taliban, Al Qaeda, all them, they all kind of get that. They want that old tribal
tribe rules and
style
laws
of
to be.
they want that to be back. That's why there's like the whole like women can't walk down the street without a
Right.
male escort,
Right.
you know, and they say, oh well, it says in the Quran, you know, that she has to be covered and it's for her protection because she's so like divine. It's like no, they use that as a way to keep them down and
To keep
oppress
them
them.
down, right.
And then that goes over here, and then over here in America, people see that and they're like, "Oh my God, it's the most backward society." All
Right.
this, you know, because of what Western media portrays. Like I said,
Portrays.
it demonizes Islam. It makes it look like everyone who's a Muslim is a terrorist
Right.
and wants to destroy America. Like I've had people tell me, like, "Oh, the Quran says to kill all non-Muslims and to kill all white people and stuff like that." And it's like it literally
It just
does
shows the
not
yeah,
say
it
that.
shows the ignorance.
Exactly. It shows the ignorance. The only time it references to it even says the word kill in the fucking Quran is when it's referring to oppression. It says for when you if you're being oppressed by an oppressive force, you
Right.
must kill them wherever they
Yeah,
are and
because
get them out of your
right,
land.
because oppression is worse than slaughter.
Exactly. And that's what gets me into my next topic of Palestine and Israel.
Right.
So what we have in Israel was established in 1948 illegally.
Illegally.
If you look at a map before 1948, there is no Israel. There's a whole state. That whole area is Palestine. It was known as Palestine.
Always been
It was
Palestine.
it was Palestine. These people had so everyone who says that oh Palestine was never a state. Palestine was not. Yes, it was. It 100% was. It was a state. It had its own government. It had everything, and it still to this day has its own sort of government, but it's been completely crippled by
Right.
the Israelis. They have taken everything from them. They have no money. They have no ability to do any like to pass any laws to do anything. They don't even have a military.
Wow.
They don't even have a military. Their military was completely just abolished pretty much. They didn't have the funding. They didn't have anything. So, and that's what differentiates groups like Hamas, Hezbollah, the PLO. The PLO was kind of the predecessor to Hamas because Hamas was founded in 1986. The PLO was around pretty much since shortly after Israel illegally occupied Palestine and parts of southern Lebanon.
Right.
So Hezbollah comes from Lebanon, and they even have their own differences with Hamas, but they've come together recently just because of the atrocities that Israel's committing.
Right.
And they are kind of the only defense that the people have in Palestine because, like I said, they don't have a military to defend them, and they have, they're constantly being bombed and destroyed by Israel, who gets all of their funding from the United States and from other, Western countries. And so, as much as you don't like it, we're all complacent, and all of our tax dollars get sent over to Israel so that
you said all of our tax dollars.
The majority of it since 1948. There's been 310 billion US dollars just in tax dollars from our tax work
going to Israel.
Going to Israel since
that's a lot of money.
310 billion dollars. 310
$10 billion is going to Israel for what?
So that the people in the occupied West Bank, which is the West Bank, has been. So here's what they've done. They've kind of split Palestine in half. They've separated Gaza from the West Bank, and Israel has occupied all that land in between, and then they've occupied the West Bank as well for their settlers. So that goes into the U.S. Our tax dollars pay for the settlers to have free education, free health care. They don't have to pay for rent. They don't even have to work. They live off of the US
money that's given.
Yeah, exactly, off the money that takes out our checks.
So the money that's coming out of my check,
yes, goes to Israel.
Is going to Israel so they could live a nice, comfortable life.
But also simultaneously kicking Palestinians out of their homes that they have had for generations so that they can live there. They come in and they take them out of their houses, say you can't live here anymore. An Israeli, a Zionist Jew family is going to live here instead, and then they put them there.
So right now, U.S. is just supporting, all of this madness that's going on, and The
and
things
we
that's
have
being
been.
taken place on these Palestinians right now is our tax dollars that's supporting.
Well, not even just our tax dollars, just our overall like our tax dollars, and they also send huge money check, like lump sums of money to Israel to
Really?
do with whatever they need. Like Trump recently, it was I don't know if many people heard about it, but he sent over a blank check to Israel and said, do however much you need, you know, fill it out,
Fill
and
it out
I'll
and
pay
then
for it afterward,
whoa.
you know. And that's we're talking about a blank check. So this man, he could put anything he wanted.
I mean,
on it, you know?
it just blows my mind because you drive around, U.S. you see so many homeless people.
Yeah,
You see people struggling to pay their rent or they're
exactly.
struggling to feed their family, but here it is, you have people that's working on a day-to-day base and getting the money taken out their checks so they can send it overseas for somebody else's living.
Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the things that bothers me so much with this
Oh,
whole America First ideology. It's because we've never been America First. For since this is
the
like I said, this
beginning
has been happening since the beginning of
of time,
Israel.
right?
Since Israel was founded, this has been happening. We've been supplying them money. It's the reason why they say, oh, we can't afford to have free health care here in America. We can't afford to have free college. But the reason why is because they're sending all that money so Israel can do that.
Right. Let me ask you a question because I'm a history freak too. Now, wasn't that the cause of the Revolution War
In America.
in
And it's funny that you
America?
bring that up. It's funny that you bring that up because America had its own revolution because we were sick of it.
Of
And
pain.
that was only a 2% tax.
Right.
2% of
Wasn't
what you
much.
made. I mean, back then that was a pretty big number, but still, that wasn't like, you know what I mean? Back then, we pretty much rebelled from one of the largest empires in the world at the time because we didn't like that we were paying all this money for nothing and we're living poor. And if you look at now, it's the same fucking thing happening. The same exact thing is happening.
Right.
It's just now it's on a more modern level and it's not here at home necessarily.
Right.
You know, we've been supplying Israel with so much money and allowing them to do this unlimited genocide pretty much. So far since 2023, and that's just 2023,
Right.
680,000 people have been killed. And 300,000 of those are children under the age of 5.
That's a mass genocide.
It is. And people say that, oh, it's because religion. It's because religion. This has nothing to do with religion.
It's dealing with territory.
If you look at Palestine as a whole, Palestine before everything was a predominantly Christian nation. They were a Christian state.
Really?
They have a majority Christian and they do Muslim.
Right.
And
now or at the time?
No, even now. Right. And Israel has been striking Gaza City, which has a huge Christian. There's a whole Christian quarter that they've already destroyed, and that shows right there that the enemy is. It's not about religion. It's not about far right Islam. It's not about anything. It's just about the fact that their skin is brown and they're Arabs, and they do not like that. Okay, the Israelis, you got to remember, because the Israelis are almost all Eastern European immigrants.
I was just about to get to that. I wanted you to break that down.
They're not even technically Semites.
Right.
Palestinian people have 80% of Palestinian people have more Semite blood in them, DNA and ancestry, than any Israeli. Any Israeli, none of them have any for the most part. They're all from like Latvia, like Eastern Europe countries for the most part. So there's no tie to that land historically, genetically whatsoever. They have no ties to that land.
How did they get there? Like what?
Somebody
told me it was
because of Theodor Herzl.
Okay, now you going in.
He was an Austrian Jewish Zionist. He's pretty much the father of Zionism.
Right.
And he was advocating that the Jews need an ethno state, that they need a place. And there's nothing wrong with having a state where it's a majority of one religion, but an ethno state is different because that means you want to get rid of everybody else who's not that religion, who looks
get
different.
Them out the way.
Exactly. And so that's the whole Greater Israel project comes into play because they've been Netanyahu's been trying to do this whole Greater Israel project since the early 2000s. He wants to pretty much take over a majority of Jordan, Lebanon, parts of Eastern Egypt, He wants to take over all these places and turn it into Israel
Wow.
and make it larger, it's as in the biblical sense of Israel. But there's a lot of contradictions within the Hebrew Bible and within the Islamic, the Quran and Christian Bible. There's a
Right.
lot of evidence that points that that's not actually where Israel would be.
Right.
Geographically, that's not where it would be.
Right.
But if it all comes down to America and other Western countries are funding this genocide. They're paying for it and they're allowing them to do whatever they want pretty much. And
You know,
I mean,
not
they voted that food in the only people who said that food wasn't a human right in the UN meetings were Israel and America. That food is not a human right and it can't be legally protected.
that's crazy.
And then shortly after, you have the starvation happening, the starvation
Right.
campaign happening. And it's not okay.
It's
It's not
definitely not
okay.
okay, and I love the zeal that you have about it because you know, you're a young Muslim, right? And that fire is just burning. And the craziest thing is like, you know, we have to study our history because once upon a time, Islam ran all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Islam ran all of that, all the way to Cuba. Islam had all of it, and I believe if all the Muslims came together, and supported Gaza, supported Palestine, I don't think none of that would happen.
Yeah, but then we get branded as terrorists.
No, no,
You know what
because
I'm
no,
saying?
I mean, at the end of the day, even if they would label it as terrorism, it's like, okay, these are brothers and sisters fighting for, their brothers. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because at one point in time, Allah said the Muslims in all areas, man, we took over that whole Middle Eastern. We took it over because it's like God gave you, dominion, gave you the position. God put you as, to set the example for mankind. And I think I'm not gonna be the one to not say well, I'm gonna be the one to say that a lot of times those things happen because of us. We got to stay connected to the laws of Allah. We got to stay, because that's who protect us. Even if in the Quran it says that Allah will test us with death laws. Just it's gonna be in a bad position. After those positions, if you stay hold fast to the rope of Allah, then He's gonna put you in position again.
Exactly.
But we have to come together. That's what Islam is. That's what the Sharia law is. Muslims coming together to support one another.
And exactly. And that's where I want to get into the whole resistance now. You know what I'm saying? So you have groups like Hamas and Hezbollah who are Muslim groups,
Right.
but they are not Muslim extremists.
Right.
I don't care what anyone, if you want to say that they're Muslim extremists, that just shows how ignorant you are. Because
Right.
if you look at when those were founded, they weren't founded until after Israel was founded in their homeland. As they were born out of resistance, they weren't born out of like Al Qaeda, where it's the same kind of thing, but it's with the United States.
Right.
You got to remember that jihadism in the Quran, it just means it's a defense of one's
Right.
homeland.
Right.
You're not supposed to attack people.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to cause war and bloodshed
To
for no reason.
not even
to no
trees.
kids, children. Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? You're not supposed to just actively like pursue violence.
Right.
You are only permitted to fight when you are defending your own place from oppression or defending what's right.
Right.
And so when you look at groups like Hamas and Hezbollah, they're doing their sworn duty to God because they are Muslim groups. They are
Right.
predominantly Muslim. But it doesn't. You don't have to be Muslim to be in them. They're taking anyone who will fight and help fight off the Israelis.
All right. Let me ask you something. Did you hear about some of the terrorist groups that they're claiming, as far as ISIS or the Taliban, was also influenced by Israelis?
Yeah, 100%. And it's the reason why is also because of the U.S.
Right.
Look at how long the United States has been in the Middle East,
Right.
causing discourse, blowing up whole villages, killing off people indiscriminately. That is born when you have people living under violent oppression for so long. It only breeds violent resistance. They're not. You cannot just expect someone to watch their neighbors get blown up every fucking day, every day. Watch the kids get killed, every day, and then not eventually rise up. They will, and like we've talked about, Omar Mukhtar, he said, "You can kill me, but you're gonna have to deal with the generation after that, and the following generation after that, who's gonna continue to fight against the oppression."
Let me ask you something about democracy. Do you feel like democracy is just a manipulation game so they could get control of a foreign land?
Yeah, 100%. They
Explain that
they
to me.
advocate that, well, we're gonna bring democracy. We're gonna bring democracy to Afghanistan. No, they don't want that. They never wanted your democracy, and in doing so, in constantly oppressing and being in their land, and them seeing their people get mistreated, that creates violence.
Right.
And then you have people reading the Quran, and taking what it says and using it. Oh, well, I need to do, and forming the extremist ideologies out of it. You know what I'm saying? And so, in a way, the United States and the West almost they did create groups like the Taliban and Al Qaeda. They created it because
It's
of
a decoy
them
just to have you.
constantly them constantly being involved in their country, trying to destabilize and put in their own leadership that they can control. That right there, in and itself, is going to make people very angry and violent. And so you wonder why, there's so many like far right groups, and like terrorist groups and stuff. It's like, yeah, it was created because of us.
Of the impression that they put on those people.
Exactly. And they see how a lot of those groups, like Al Qaeda and all them, they see how America treats women, and that inspires them. Like, oh well, if America keeps their women down like this, we can kind of do that too. But they hide behind the Quran to try and they manipulate it, and they take what the Quran says and change it to make them, oh no, that's what it means, and it's like, no, that is not what it means. That's not what was intended. Because it's like I was saying, when the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he had his visions, he advocated for women's rights. He was a staunch women's rights advocate. He wanted women to have equal everything, and that was one of the reasons why he was so like persecuted and like sometimes violently attacked, because people were like, no, this is not right. Women have to be kept down, and it's like, no, women are equals.
What do you see that's coming with this war?
Well, for one thing, a lot of anti-Semitism. A lot of people are blaming Jews as a whole for what's going on, and that's a problem in and itself, because the Jewish people, what Israel is doing is not like acceptable in the Hebrew, in any of that. It's not acceptable. It's not allowed. It's not.
So what they're doing right there is going against
what Israel is doing.
Practice.
Is exactly the same as Al Qaeda. Exactly the same. It's a terrorist organization. It is a far right radicalization of Hebrew, of Judaism, and it is just they're hiding behind Judaism, just like the same as Al Qaeda is hiding behind Islam, to do their atrocities.
Now, it's crazy because, I'll be looking on my timeline on Facebook and IG, and I done seen a few people made posts about Hitler,
Yeah, people saying like Hitler didn't do his job and stuff like that. And it's like, that's not okay.
Wrong, and everything like that.
You see, and that's scary, because that's not good. Because that's just feeding into the Nazi ideology. That's what right now the American Nazi Party and all these white supremacists and stuff, they love this. They love this because it gives them a chance to paint Jewish people as monsters. And as when it's not,
and it's not even the Jewish people; it's the people hiding behind
Exactly.
Judaism that's
It's
doing
the
this.
Israeli government. The
Right.
Israeli government and a lot of the people in Israel, they've been brainwashed into thinking that, like, oh, Gaza's not actually that bad and it's not really happening. Or I've heard the term Gaza wood, as in like Hollywood.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, it's not
where they
it's
where you
not going down
yeah,
like that
they
over
show
there.
you can show them a picture of a baby who's been decapitated by the IOF, and they'll be like, oh, that's fake, and it's like, no, it's not fake. It's from some distraught father's iPhone recording, trying to show you what has
What's
just happened to
what's
his
going on?
kid.
Because they got a strong way of trying to block out, or
Oh
because
yeah,
the media is gonna portray the image that they want you to
they
see.
want the media is trying to purvey as that Israel is defending themselves from Hamas, and Hamas is this crazy super. If that were the case, Hamas would have to be funded by multiple foreign countries to even be on the same level militarily as Israel is. Israel has one of the most advanced militaries
Right.
in the world, and it's because they get stuff directly from the United States.
Yeah.
So they are using, weapons that, like, Hamas, they couldn't even afford, and nor all their leadership has been taken out. Right? At this point, it's just that they're rebuilding almost, and you have just young people with weapons that are getting their old hands on weapons, and they're just trying to defend their neighbors.
It's good.
They're just trying to defend their neighbors and the people and their land, because
Right.
it's their land.
Right.
And
Definitely.
that's what bothers me is in America we don't want to acknowledge the fact that we did the exact same thing.
Right.
The only difference is, oh well, they're brown and they have Muslims, so they're animals, they're
Right.
devils, they're not good. And it's like, no,
Yeah.
they are doing the exact same thing that America did in the 1700s.
Right.
They are rebelling against an oppressive force
Yeah.
that is in their land.
It's crazy because these are human beings.
No, yeah,
Right. No matter what areas of the world you live in, you have babies. Like when you sent me those clips on my Instagram account, and I looked at it, it hurt me. It hurt me
yeah.
because I'm like, yo, these are kids, and you have people in this world with kids.
Yeah, that's what bothers me.
Right. You got people in this world with kids, and if it's going down anywhere around their kids, they're gonna panic.
Mm-hmm.
But since it's not happening, where
But
they're
you need
living
to-
at, now they're like, oh, it's not my problem.
Yeah.
It's nah. We have to look at it as a, human thing. This is, human rights. People's lives that's being took. Like you have to say something. And I feel like there is a lot of people that's speaking
Yeah.
out against what's going on in Israel. And I feel like more Muslims should speak out too, because at the end of the day, we could be in America living our lives, but we got to think about it.
Oh, it could happen here with how our government is going. Any day they could pull the card and be like, all right, anybody who's not white is going to get put inside of
Right.
a camp. And we're very close to that. I already can tell that we're very close to that, and that scares me. But as like you're saying, as a parent, if you don't see your own kids in these martyrs, in these people who like every time that I go on my Instagram and I see a child who is a father picking up his limp, lifeless infant's body covered in blood, I see my own daughter in that. I see and as a parent, if you don't see that, it shows how ignorant and how closed-minded your worldview is,
Right.
because you have to put yourself in the position of those parents. Imagine how you would feel scraping the remains of your kid up out of rubble because you were just blown up for no reason other than you look different than the Israelis and you're in their land. Just think about it. Like, it's not. You should be just as mad as a parent. Every parent around the world should be fuming right now and
Right.
should be ready to violently fight back, because the only way that this is going to end is with some sort of military intervention. And so many states and countries have talked about it and tipped around like, oh, we need to, we should send military to Palestine. Do it.
Right.
Do it.
It's kind of crazy how it's going down in so many places in the world right now, especially, for the first time when I was incarcerated, we was watching live war, especially with Ukraine. Like, because back in the days when they had wars, they didn't have camera phones. Now you have people going live showing you exactly what's going on.
Oh yeah.
on that battlefield, and
I've
you're like,
seen
yo,
that
these
stuff
are
too.
regular civilians that's getting blown up, getting shot, getting their house raided, and it's the same thing that's going on in Palestine right now, and you're
Oh
like
yeah,
seeing it in live action, and it's just showing you how
this
you're in
is
real
like
times right now.
this is what would happen if people in 1930s Germany had phones, if they
Yeah,
were
you was
able to
gonna
show
see it,
off what the Nazis were doing.
right,
We would see firsthand just how brutal, and now we are seeing
firsthand,
firsthand just how brutal it is, and how
right,
and it's I want more people to realize that your tax dollars, your money is going towards this. Your money. Every paycheck that you get, it goes towards this genocide. And until people in America realize that this is not okay and that this needs to be dealt with, this is going to continue to happen because those who have power right now are all a bunch of billionaires and they don't care about human life. They only care about making their pockets deeper and what financial investments they can get out of all this presidency stuff that they're doing. It's not, they don't care about human life. I mean, it just shows with just American politics over the last year. It, the big beautiful bill, for example, the whole reason the government is currently shut down. Well, one of the main reasons. There's another reason I'll get into, but the whole it cuts healthcare and benefits and insurance and all these things for all the people who voted for Trump. All the people, all these people in the Midwest who have barely any healthcare like infrastructure, no hospitals, no money for anything. These people are the ones that voted him in, and he's going to take away all of their healthcare and all of their benefits, and they still haven't woken up to it. They're still riding this Trump train, and it's insane to me because you're the ones who are going to get the most affected by it. People on the coasts, where there's more education, there's more of a you know structure in society that's been built up and maintained. Whereas you look at in the middle of the country, it's all falling apart. It's called the Rust Belt for a reason. All the factories closed down, and all this talk about, oh, we're bringing new factories. No, they're not bringing anything. Hyundai just pulled out because of the huge 400. They arrested 400 Hyundai plant workers who were sent over from Korea to help establish and build this plant. The ICE came over and deported and detained 400 people. So now Korea was like, we're not going to do business with you, rightfully so, you know, and you're deporting majority of the people in this country. They don't want to work in factories. There was a poll that they did where they asked just random people on the street, would you want to work in the factory? 70% of people said no.
Why?
Because they're American. They want to be fat and lazy. It's true. America breeds the the um the idea that if as long as my kids are in a good school, I have my car that I wanted, I have a nice house, I'm in a good neighborhood, I'm good. I don't have to worry about the world. It creates this closed-minded worldview where your world is just what is
About
immediately around you and about your family. And
closed-minded,
yeah,
very true.
that's what it creates. And until people learn to break that and start thinking about the rest of the world, we're doomed. We're doomed because
Sounds mind controlling.
it is. That's what they do. They've used consumerism and capitalism to keep us in this state of, oh well, as long as I have just enough to be comfortable, I'm good. I don't have to. I don't question anything. Don't question anything that the government's doing. But this government shutdown, it's mostly because the Democrats were like, no, this bill is going to add $10 trillion to the U.S. debt, which is already skyrocketing. You know, and it's just going to hurt. It's going to cause way more harm than it's going to do good. And Republicans are the ones who are going to get hurt by it. And Democrats and other Republicans who are smart are actually realizing that, and they're trying to like, hey, this is not okay. Like this is going to hurt everybody. Like, it's funny because the Republicans are like, oh, the Democrats are this, but the Democrats are actually trying to help the Republicans in
Right.
this. People who are Republican voting, that's what I mean when I say Republicans, not necessarily like, congressmen, congressmen and women, and like senators and shit like that. I'm talking about just people who vote Republican.
Right.
Like, they're trained to hate, pretty much. They're just constantly trained to hate, and they don't want to realize that even these people that they hate are trying to look out for them and be like, look, this bill is gonna hurt you,
Right.
And then the other reason why it's shut down is because of the Epstein files.
What is the Epstein phone?
So all the info about Jeffrey Epstein and all his associates, which we all know Trump, he's freaking out because he knows that he's on the thing more than 300 times. His name pops up, as well as all his cronies. Trump's spiritual advisor just got arrested for sexually abusing a 12-year-old girl.
Wow.
And he was arrested. He only got 6 months in prison.
Well, nothing.
With no, yeah, exactly, nothing. And it's because these people control everything and they have all the money. And so what's happening with this is there was one Democratic senator, they were one away from getting that bill released. And so she was going to come in and swear in and sign, and her signature would cause the forced release of the Epstein files. So the government was shut down by Trump and all his lackeys because they don't want that to happen, because they know that they are all in those files. They're all going to be named.
Then they expose it.
Our country is being run by oligarch pedophiles right now.
Whoa.
They control everything, and Epstein in himself was a huge blackmailing operation, which has all been confirmed now. He has ties to Israeli Mossad, which is, like the Israel CIA, basically, you could say.
Right.
And like, even just getting into them, there's like so many things where the CIA of America and the Mossad have done so much things together that it's almost like it's the same agency at this point.
Right.
They look out for the same exact things. They have the same goals in mind. Let's just put it that way. So when it comes to Epstein, you have this man who is, sex trafficking minors, we all know, and having them do massages for these rich people, and all these people, he would record it happening, and then use it as a blackmail. And then that blackmail, exactly, and then that blackmail gets sent back to Israel so they can say, hey, do this. This is what we want you to do. Oh, don't disobey me. Because we have this video of you assaulting a 12-year-old girl. You don't want that to get out, do you?
Wow.
And then that also, another way that Israel controls the West is through AIPAC, which is it's pretty much money that goes into the pro-Israel lobby, for example. So basically, almost every congressman, senator, all these people are getting money from AIPAC to not speak out against Israel, to continue to further the Israeli Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the Israelis' lying campaign, is the best way to put it, of trying to justify their treatment of Arabs and the Palestinian people. They use Hezbollah as their way of saying, oh, look, it's our religious land, we have to be here, they have to do this violent oppression because it's what they need to do. It's just all about defense of Israel. That's all it is.
That's all they're doing.
And our congressmen and women, they don't care, but they don't have our interests at heart. They have Israel's interests. I mean, just look, a couple weeks ago, they flew out almost every United States congressman and woman to Israel to learn about how to fucking light it for Israel more. They even had a banner in the back that said 50 states, one Israel. Explain that to me. You know what I'm saying? Like that doesn't say that we're owned by it, which we are. We're pretty much owned by Israel.
But it's been like that for so long.
They have us by the balls.
Right.
When we can't get away from it. They have us by the balls, and they use us to, and it's all part of their grand scheme, which Netanyahu has been caught on video saying this in 2001. He said that what we're going to do to America is drain them out, dry them up, turn them into an easily controllable welfare state that we can control and as act on our behalf, basically.
I think it's getting to that point.
It's already getting there. We're already almost there. Look at the current state of the economy.
It's crazy.
People are
Man.
struggling.
Cost of
Everyone,
living is going
cost of
so
living is
high.
skyrocketing, and they're like, oh, we don't have the money. We don't have the money. Yeah, because you send it all to
sending all
Israel.
the money
You
to
send
a
it all to
foreign country,
Israel.
right?
America first, my ass.
Yeah.
You know?
So what's your goal? Like, what's your main goal? Is to spread out the.
I want people to just wake up and realize, because that's the thing. There's more of us than there are of them. Look at in Indonesia. I believe it's Indonesia.
Indonesia. Yeah.
They just overthrew their government with barely any weaponry, almost like no weaponry. They overthrew their own government, the civilians, in a week. They burned down the Capitol building, like they did all this crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And that just shows, and that's a small country. That just shows you that if we all unite, we have way more power than those who are in power.
Is power.
Unity is power. And until that happens, it's never going to get better. We're going to continue to send all of our money to Israel. We're going to continue to have the wealthy get wealthier and everyone else get poorer and poorer. The middle class getting sent down to be with the poor, basically, and wiped out. There's no end in sight with how we're going.
Right. Definitely.
Without some sort of action being taken.
Right.
You know, and I've always because I've always been a pretty left leaning person, you know, and the left gets so much hate when all we want is to just better humanity. We just want to get rid of hate. We want to get rid of hate. We want to get rid of hate.
All that terrorism.
We don't want all that shit. Look at in America here. All these shootings that have happened after the Charlie Kirk assassination. They're the people who have done all these shootings have been far right, crazy, radicalized, internet poisoned sickos. They aren't left leaning people, but the current administration instantly throws the blame on the left. And they were stuck last time because the most recent one was a guy with a literal Trump sticker on his car that he drove through a church with 2 American flags and opened fire and burned the church down because he didn't like Mormons, because he was an evangelical Christian. Like, these are and then they didn't say anything about that because they know there's no way of talking out of this one saying it's a leftist. It's a progressive person. Progressive people don't want to get rid of Mormons and other religions. We believe, and same with Muslims. Muslims coexist. They believe in coexistence, especially with Christians and the subsects of Christianity. There's a lot of overlap within the Quran and the Bible. There's a ton of overlap. Whether it's from the prophets, as we call them, you know, Abraham for them, Ibrahim for us, you know, it's the same. Moses, Musa, you know, it's all very similar stories. You know, it's all, and that's where, you know, we need to come together.
Inshallah,
we need to come together because they want to keep us all divided. They want to continue to say that Islam is going to breed terrorism, and they want to keep everyone fighting because they know that if we're all separated,
they could be doing all this movement, all this controlling over here, while we're over here doing
you know, bickering about race and religion and stuff. It's like, no,
and lock in.
We're all human beings. We should all be looking out for each other. We're all humans.
Listen, this interview right here was very beneficial. You educated me so much of what's going on because, you know, on a day-to-day basis, going to work, paying bills, and then you want to get a glimpse of what's going on outside of your world. You know, you have to really be interested in it, man. And I'm telling you, I really appreciate that because that was very beneficial, and I pray it's beneficial for the people that's watching, man. This is Culture Appetite. You got to tap in. You got to get unified. You need to educate yourself. You got to come to the awareness of what's going on outside of your country, man, because these are human beings. This is human laws. We got to recognize it, man. I'm glad I had you. Hopefully in the near future, make sure you come back. I will talk some more. Give us an update what's going on. Definitely gonna tap in with y'all, man. Culture Appetite, here we have it. We coming back at you, man. Love, brother. Man, you gave it to them. Yeah. I was like, you know what? Hey, man, let's go.